been a lot of things that's been happening here with the Steelers as far as the organization goes. But also, let's get into some other stuff though too. I'm gonna get into that a little bit later on Fair or Foul. But I was looking at an article right now, and I was mentioning this about last week about Joe Hayden right now, who's looking for a new deal. He's already turned 30 years old, and him and his agent Drew Rosenhaus was able to meet with the Steelers vice president of football and administration and their chief negotiator Omar Khan. I mean, main concerns for how much and for how long. I mean, when you look at it, I mean, a guy like Joe Hayden, I mean, he's definitely been very impressive so far. I mean, one healthy, what when you look at it and what he's been able to do as far as like in the league. I mean, Joe Hayden was definitely a surprise steal 2 years ago at the conclusion of the preseason when you think about things. And just whoever thought that he would came to enemy territory from Browns fans' eyes. I mean, this guy had a very lot of great teamwork potential with this team when you think about it. And you look at it right there, what he's been able to do and still be able to perform at a decent level. And like I said, the only thing that concerns me is that the Steelers are $1 million barely in cap availability, 1.09 million. That's a big concern. And when you look at a guy like Mike Hilton, who signed his veteran uh, minimum for right now, uh, Steelers barely got any wiggle room right now. I mean, there's been a lot said this year. I mean, things go wrong probably like the next year or two. Probably expect some changes coming up down the road. I could definitely imagine that. I could definitely see that. I just think for right now, you have to look at it. This is something where you gotta prove, you gotta show people why you're still legit in this division. This is a team that's gonna come out angry, swinging for the fences. You know what? I mean, it's not beyond the realm of ramification to think right now the Browns are a legit contender. I mean, it's definitely some interesting stuff right now when you look at things. Sorry about that, guys. Just had a little bit of a little malfunction here. We're all good, but yeah, you can. No one can look past them right now. You just cannot think that they're going to be a walk in the park anymore. This is not the same team as everyone knows that they're not going to be pushovers anymore to the Steelers. At the end of the day, Steelers got like, I mean, this is pretty much you're going all in right now. I mean, when you look at this year, I mean, all in, I guess you could say it's like now when you already make the decision earlier that you're not gonna reapply the franchise tag again on Le'Veon Bell for the third straight year, and then of course doing the unthinkable, trading Antonio Brown. I mean, we'll see. I mean, this is a team right now who has to play for each other. The playmaker, Michael Irvin, former three-time Super Bowl champion with the Dallas Cowboys, he was on with Stephen A. Smith, and he was definitely saying there with Stephen A. that Ben Roethlisberger too, and they both agreed that he has to lift up everybody. And the thing is, with a guy like Ben Roethlisberger too, when you think about it, aside from Joe Hayden, like I said, I think they'll find a way to get something done. They're going to have to do something creative. I don't know if it's going to have to mean asking guys to take some pay cuts to make this happen. But again, like with Joe Hayden, I think they're thinking of a similar role like what happened to kind of like Rob Woodson back in his playing career. When you look at where he started and what he did in his NFL career, remember he played quarterback for most of his career. I mean, for 11 seasons, he did that for, or 12 seasons, excuse me. Then beginning in 1999, he was able to convert to a safety, free safety, as a matter of fact, and extended his career about another 5 more seasons. So the thought process is that does Joe Hayden, does he still produce at a high level like he is right now, and is able to keep that up at the age of 32? Because more than likely he's probably getting a $32 million deal. But you also got Josh Norman, who's 32 years old, signed a 5-year contract with the Redskins. Remember back in 2016, right after parting ways with the Carolina Panthers, who were in the Super Bowl, and he was an unrestricted free agent when he was 29 years old. That was a key thing. Right now, Joe Hayden is no more in his 20s. He's barely into his 30s at 30 years old. And there's been only 13 cornerbacks in the NFL to make between 12 and 15 million annually, according to overthecap.com. So, like I said, they're probably thinking, like, can he do something like a Rob Woodson, where it comes from an understanding that if he does start to slow down, is he willing to convert to, like, say, like a safety position, like a free safety? And I don't see why that would hurt anything. If we're talking about all that, I think why not? I think that's something you definitely have to keep in mind right here. I mean, for right now, I mean, you want, like I said, you've been making a lot of brass decisions over this year, going all in where you're moving up 10 spots to grab, or moving up to like the 10th spot to get Devin Bush. And the Steelers right there. I mean, what can you say? And here they are, and just trying to make a statement and just say, hey, we could still do this the old-fashioned way, Steeler football. And that brings you back to what I was just alluding to earlier, what Ben Roethlisberger and what Michael Irvin was saying, where Ben Roethlisberger has to lift up everybody on his team. I mean, he's been like, having his Robin and Antonio Brown that he developed. I mean, you looked at like what it was when Antonio Brown first appeared onto the scene with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was already someone special. I mean, of course, a lot of guys will start off on special teams and work their way up. And when he was playing alongside a guy like Mike Wallace, Hines Ward was definitely in the downhill like decline at that time, little by little. He was definitely showing his ill effects right now. And he definitely had some stuff right there. His gas was running out of the tank. He only played for 2 more seasons when Antonio Brown was in the league, but he was definitely able to mentor at that time. I mean, when he made that famous catch in the playoffs. But Mike Wallace was no slouch either. I mean, when Mike Wallace didn't sign, I think like when he was like not happy with the deal the Steelers were offering him, they instead offered Antonio Brown. Mike Wallace was on the holdout. He eventually did report, but too little too late. And Antonio Brown, he was able to make the most with it. The only thing unfortunate for Antonio Brown, I mean, and it wasn't all his fault, but I mean, he had like a defensive decline. It took 2 years of patience to figure things out and to get this team back to winning ways, winning Steeler football. And I think that's where the Steelers looked at it as far as like what you need to do. And they just transitioned to a better offense, I think, little by little over time. And a lot of that was because of Todd Haley, I think. Ben Roethlisberger was always going to like be a gunslinger mentality type of guy, like Brett Favre at times, where he's going to take those big chances and you're going to ride or die with him. So right now, let's go get ready to get into right now. Also, some other stuff I do want to point out real quick. I was also looking at the article from The Athletic. Mike Tomlin, his contract, which they said it was supposed to be for the 2021 season. But as we just learned, too, when we looked at this article that was written by, let's see, Ed Boucher right here, legendary Steeler beat writer and supporter for this team. like I said, he pointed out it was not just for the 2021 season, but for 2022, they got a team option. So how about that real quick there? So it's not necessarily when Ben Roethlisberger's career finishes. I think they want to get like a feel right now because if they want to move on, they don't have to pay Tomlin in 2022. That's the key thing. I think what they want to see right there is when Ben Roethlisberger time comes to an end, is this team still in playoff, yellow Super Bowl contention, and where they could still continue to excel? Because remember, you got some question marks. You look at the overall age on this team, which is 26 years old, and what they did overall. I mean, you look at overall right now, like I said, when you think about things, who what the Steelers had to think about. I mean, you pretty much look at the Steelers. I mean, let's break it down real quick. When we look at it, offense right now, average age is 26 years old. Defense, 26 years old. Special teams, 28. And then for the team average age, when you really look at it, 26 years old. So pretty very reasonable right now what the Steelers have in their favor at this moment in time. And I think that's very encouraging right now. So, I mean, more than likely, once Ben Roethlisberger's career is about to come to a close, these guys are going to be in their late 20s. I think the names that you do have to pay in mind to is like Alejandro Villanueva. Right now, who's in his 30s. That's one guy I think you want to consider. Do you start looking into a replacement for him eventually at some point where he could still nurture someone and still be a help right now at this point in time? Because we don't know how much longer he's going to last. Great, noble guy. I mean, just serving, of course, as well, having fought for this country, and just did a lot. And I just feel like right now you had, I mean, that's one of the things that helped Ben Roethlisberger extend his career. If you really think about it, that offensive line was key this past decade. And I think that really started in 2011 when I remember a game against the Cleveland Browns where he had an injury where he was almost going to possibly be knocked out for the game. Thursday Night Football. He ends up managing to gut out the game and beat the Browns on Thursday Night Football, but it did eventually he had like a little bit of a gimpy knee going into the playoffs, or he's just a little bit gimpy, and that effect did kind of catch up with him and proved well, I think, in the playoffs right there when they lost to the Denver Broncos, unfortunately. So, I mean, that's a lot of things to consider right there. Building that offensive line this past decade. I mean, when you think about it, I mean, they built it pretty much through as late as like last year. I mean, when you really think about things. So I think that's gonna be one key thing is like what kind of plan does Tomlin have for his next quarterback where it's if it's possibly Josh Dobbs, which I don't see right now, or Mason Rudolph. That's the thing you have to look at. But again, for 2022, I wouldn't mind seeing it. And if he does make it through there, that'll be one more year than Bill Cowher if he's able to survive that. Again, the number to reach is 312-209-2232. Again, the number is 312-209-2232. You can follow me on Twitter at Prodigy Richie. You can also check me out streaming live on Instagram, Men of Steel Nation, and of course, YouTube, Men of Steel Podcast. All right, everybody. Now, let's get ready to get into some fair or foul right now as we look at things real quick. And I want to play a clip right now before we go a little bit further. This is coming from Ben Roethlisberger as far as like how he felt the season was going to be as far as in terms like predictions and what the expectations were. I want you guys to get a listen on this real quick. So just give me 1 second while I get that set up for you guys here. And let's take a listen to what Ben Roethlisberger had to say.
Nobody in the league's won a game or lost a game, exactly. And predictions are just that, they're predictions, and that's fine. We know that we didn't make the playoffs last year, so we have to earn that. We have to earn the right to be picked or whatever it is. But it starts week one. We have to get ready to go and go play our best football and see what happens.
So our Kurt Warner said earlier that the thing missing on this defense is a game breaker, a guy who changes the game. And he said, I think Devin Bush can be that guy.
Yeah, definitely. I feel the same exact way. This is what training camp is for. Get the repetition down and, be that guy that they're looking for.
Okay, 3 goals. Give us 3 goals for this month.
3 goals for this month. Have fun, get better, and, win.
Thank you very much, everybody, for your patience right there. Of course, you were just hearing from Ben Roethlisberger, of course, on the predictions real quick over there going into the off season. I mean, when you really think about things, of course, Devin Bush right there gained some recognition by Kurt Warner being possibly the playmaker that the Steelers need on defense. And I say, why not right now? I mean, this guy's definitely got some stuff right there. But like I said, again, when it comes to Roethlisberger, he has to build his teammates up. So now let's get into fair or foul real quick here. Fair or foul, first topic. Any issues with this year's 2019 Hall of Honor? I already said one guy who I felt like I had an issue not being on there, but I could understand if it's still from better reasons. I understand why. And I would definitely have to say, like I said, Troy Polamalu at this point in time. One guy who definitely deserves to be on there when you think about things. I mean, a guy who's going for Hall of Fame eligibility, I think he should have been on there. I don't understand why he's not. But, I mean, if you had other guys you could also, put on this list here, I mean, when you look at the Hall of Honor, too, I mean, eventually, I mean, if we're going to be talking about contributors real quick, why not James Ferrier, who's 17th in approximate value? I mean, James Ferrier, who was a 2-time Pro Bowler, 1-time All-Pro. I mean, you got to think about a guy like James Ferrier. He came pretty much a year after the Steelers ended the 3-year playoff drought from 1997 through 1999. I mean, 1998 through 2000, excuse me. He came in 2002 when the Steelers had that 10-5-1 season. And they won the very first AFC North division once, the league was 32 teams. They did the new 4-division format in each conference. And, of course, everyone remembers they had that game where they had to duke it out with the Cleveland Browns, where they trailed by a big deficit in that game. And they were able to manage to come back and advance and then eventually lose to the Titans. I believe it was in overtime that year. I mean, James Ferrier, I think he was just definitely one of the captains on that defense right there who definitely made some immense contributions on here. When you look at it, he was definitely, I think, one of the guys who was able to be a great, loyal guy. He was loyal like a bulldog when you really think about things. I mean, when you think about him, Casey Hampton, Joey Porter, all those guys, like I said, Aaron Smith. I think definitely he's the guy who should be on that list right there. I think James Ferrier just made some haymaking plays at times and was just a guy who really was like a leader amongst men. I mean, if you ask me. So I think that's one guy you could definitely add on there. I think another guy who you could also probably add as far as on the Hall of Honor that probably should be on there, hopefully in due time, and hopefully it's not because of trouble off the field. I know he's had a few instances before where it was kids or someone he used to be with. You have to think about Greg Lloyd. Greg Lloyd right there, who's part of that Blitzburg defense right there. I mean, yeah, he did get banged up back in 1996 when he was out for the season, but really became like a great mentor to a lot of players on that team. I mean, when you look at overall, I mean, right there. I mean, he was he had knee injury in 1996. But I mean, when you also look at a guy like Greg Lloyd, who's another guy who's not in the Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio yet, but I think eventually, if you could just continue to keep yourself clean, keep yourself out of trouble, all that, I think this is a guy who definitely should be in there. Because when you look at it, I mean, he still had a respectable season the following year. Yeah, he was a little bit in decline, but I mean, still, this guy was a beast. He was one of the guys originally that kept that defense afloat. And I think Greg Lloyd, I mean, he was just I mean, let's put it to you this way. I think he was like the Dark Knight to the Steelers, as Kevin Green was the Superman of the Steelers' Blitzburg defense, like Justice League style. That's what they were, and that's pretty much how they did stuff right there. And I just think it was just poetry in motion. I mean, I was just looking at an article too before we go a little bit further. I was looking at Brian Diardo. He was able to post one up here when you think about it. And he was saying real quick here that the Steelers team in 1994, when they should have probably got to the Super Bowl 29, 25 years ago against the 49ers, my thing is this, and I agree with Brian Diarro on this part. I mean, obviously they didn't have no dazzling offense. I mean, Neil O'Donnell was probably like maybe, just maybe, like probably the like legitimate quarterback he had aside from Terry Bradshaw when they moved on separate ways. And I got a few comments real quick I want to read off over here before we go on. Otis, my man, I just want to say thank you very much for joining the Men of Steel podcast. Always a pleasure seeing you on here. He said next year when he go in the Hall, this is the best offensive line. Yeah, the offensive line, I definitely feel like it's definitely at its peak right now. Don't get me wrong. I think it's good. All I'm just saying, I think we do have to start paying attention to once it starts getting to like the newer quarterback, whoever that may be, that's going to be the case. I mean, when you think about with the Steelers overall and you look at who they had on there, I mean, the Steelers' offensive line, I think it's definitely going to be solid for a while. But like I said, I mean, the guys that really concern me is like Alejandro Villanueva, who's 30 years old. I probably expect him at least like another 3, maybe 4 more years, if that. And then you got Matt Filer. I think Ramon Foster, that's going to be a big one you have to pay attention to. He's 32 years old right now. You got Marquise Pouncey, who's 29. I mean, those would be the notable guys I would say on there. You have to start thinking about right now. Those are big, solid ones right there. And of course, I mean, like with Marquise Pouncey, as stupid as he may sound sometimes, when he could say some ignorant stuff. But I mean, other than that, I mean, he's definitely like a true viable guy, a Pro Bowler at his position, 2-time All-Pro, 7-time Pro Bowl. I would expect him when his career is all said and done to be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, this guy should definitely be in there like sooner rather than later. I mean, hopefully it's the first ballot. I mean, I don't know, but at the same time too, maybe it will be. But like I said, let's just wait and see in that. But I think Marquise Pouncey, I mean, he's just definitely one of those guys, a big-time battery mate that Ben Roethlisberger enjoyed having for his career. I mean, if you think about it, Marquise Pouncey was so valuable when the Steelers beat the Jets. Remember, he was out for Super Bowl 45. Not too many people will bring that up. I mean, how much of a huge loss that was for Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, when you think about it. I mean, your center is pretty much almost, I guess, say like your catcher on your offensive line to your pitcher quarterback of the offense in football when you think about things. That's just the way I look at it. And I just definitely seem to think you can't overlook that. Definitely a big-time Pro Bowler in that. But, yeah, I think it's definitely some stuff you have to give consideration to. Also, let's get into fair or foul real quick. The last one, Juju Smith-Schuster showing up normally. I mean, versus guys who make their entrance to the training camp in grand fashion and style. He said it was reported that he was able to just sneak through the side door and just say, I'm just here to work, win games, and win the Super Bowl. That is the main focus. The team and work together. Juju came to work. It's not about me. It's about the team. Fair or foul to win the Super Bowl. And I'm going to say, like, right now for the Hall of Honor, I'm going to have to say it's fair. But as far as this, fair or foul, I'm going to have to say foul for right now because we've yet to see yet. Juju Smith-Schuster is dynamic. He is a hustler. He is hungry. He is loyal. He's doing all the right things. But he's after shoulder load right now, and they're always going to be reminding left to right until he's blue in the face that can you somehow match or get more production than guys like Antonio Brown, especially like a Lev Bell, who kind of set the path here, who set the tone for this offense to be changed. So that's going to do it for this edition of the Men of Steel podcast. Like I said, I just want to say thank you for everybody tuning in. Love seeing you guys on here. Like I said, you can always usually catch me very heavily throughout the season, Mondays and Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Again, you can follow me on Twitter at ProdigyRichie. You can also check me out on Instagram, Men of Steel Nation, as well as my YouTube channel, Men of Steel Podcast. As I always leave you, don't be trolling, be rolling. Here goes Steelers, here we go. I gone.